They sold my childhood home without telling me. I was the one who actually owned it. I found out my childhood home had been sold because a stranger texted me a photo of my front porch with a sold sign stuck into the flower bed where my mom used to grow daisies. The photo came from an unknown number, no hello, just the image and a short message. Hi, is this Lauren? I'm with the buyers. We're doing measurements tomorrow. Can you confirm the alarm code? For a second my brain didn't understand what my eyes were seeing. The porch railing was the same chipped white. The old brass light fixture was still crooked. Even the cracked stepping stone was there, the one my brother used to trip over and laugh about. My stomach dropped so hard it felt like I'd missed a step. I stared at the screen until my thumb went numb, then I called my mom so fast I almost dropped my phone. She answered on the third ring, breathy like she'd been moving around, and I heard the TV in the background. Hey honey, she said, too bright. What's up? What's up? I repeated, and my voice came out thin and sharp. Why is there a sold sign on our house? There was a pause. Not confusion. Not surprise. A pause like she was deciding which lie was easiest. Oh, she said, and I could hear her swallow. Well, that happened quickly. I felt heat rise behind my eyes. What do you mean it happened quickly? I demanded. I'm getting texts from a buyer asking for the alarm code. Mom lowered her voice like someone might overhear her committing a crime. Lauren, don't start. We were going to tell you. Tell me? I said, and my hands started shaking so violently I had to sit down on the edge of my bed. You sold my childhood home without telling me. Mom sighed, like I was being unreasonable. It's not your home anymore. It's just a house. My throat tightened. It is my house, I said. Legally. The silence on the line was so sudden it sounded like the world had turned off. It was the kind of silence that happens when someone hears the part they didn't plan for. Lauren, my mom said carefully, what are you talking about? I could feel my pulse in my ears. My whole body went cold in a prickling way, like my skin was trying to crawl away from my bones. The deed, I said, and my voice shook, but I kept going. It's in my name. It has been in my name since Grandpa died. You know that. The next sound I heard was my mom's sharp inhale, and then a different voice on the line. My stepdad, Rick, because of course she'd put me on speaker, without warning. That's enough, Rick said, that heavy, confident tone he uses when he wants to end a conversation. Don't make accusations. Accusations. I snapped. They're asking me for the alarm code, Rick. Someone is measuring my house tomorrow like it's already theirs. Rick's voice stayed calm, which somehow made it worse. We had authority, he said. We handled it. You live across the country. You're not there. It needed to be sold. I could barely breathe. You didn't have authority, I said. You had access. It was 2 days before Christmas when this happened, which somehow added this extra layer of surreal cruelty. I'd been planning to fly home after New Year's because work was insane, and I couldn't get the time off earlier. I'd bought my mom a sweater she'd been hinting about for months. I'd bought Rick a practical gift because that's what you do when you're trying to keep the peace. I'd even ordered ornaments with our old family dog's face on them because I thought it would make everyone laugh. And then, in the middle of an ordinary Tuesday, I got a text that made my entire childhood feel like it was being peeled off the walls and sold to the highest bidder. Here's the broader context because I know it sounds dramatic if you don't understand how this family works. My biological dad died when I was 16. It wasn't sudden, cancer, the slow kind that eats away at your routines until you don't recognize your life. My parents had already been divorced for years, but my dad was still the steady point in my world. He was the one who cared about paperwork, who kept receipts, who told me not to sign anything without reading it. When he died, I became this weird emotional project for my mom. She loved me, but she loved me like you love a responsibility, like something you manage. Rick came into our lives about a year later. He was charming in that polished way. He brought casseroles. He fixed the leaky faucet. He started calling me kiddo even though it made my skin crawl. I tried to be open-minded because my mom looked lighter around him, and I wanted that for her. But Rick also had opinions about everything. How I dressed, what I studied, whether I needed therapy. He believed he was the sensible adult, and everyone else was a little irrational. Especially me. When my grandpa died, my dad's dad, he left the house to me. Not to my mom. Not to both of us.
To me.
Grandpa didn't trust Rick, and he didn't trust my mom to stand up to Rick. He told me that once, bluntly, when we were sitting on the porch swing with iced tea sweating on the table between us. That man thinks he can run a household like a business, Grandpa said. But a home isn't his to run. I want you to have a foundation that nobody can take. I was 21 when Grandpa died. I was in my last year of college, overwhelmed, broke, and grieving 2 major losses in 5 years. When the attorney explained the will, I remember my mom's face tightening, like she'd expected the house to become hers automatically. Rick stayed quiet, but his eyes went sharp and calculating. I didn't want to kick them out. I wasn't cruel. The house wasn't just an asset. It was where I learned to ride a bike. It was where my dad taught me how to change a tire. It was where Grandpa let me stay up late watching old movies and eating popcorn from a metal bowl. It felt wrong to turn it into a weapon. So I made an agreement with my mom. She could live there as long as she covered taxes and basic maintenance, and she'd keep me updated on anything major. We got it in writing. Grandpa's attorney insisted. Rick signed too, even though he did it with that little smirk like he thought it was unnecessary. After college, I moved for work. I didn't visit as often as I wanted. Life got busy in that relentless way. I'd call my mom and she'd say things like, "Oh, the roof is fine," or "We replaced the water heater." And I'd believe her because trusting your mom is something you don't realize is optional until it burns you. Then, last spring, my mom started making comments. "It's a lot of house," she'd say. "Property taxes keep going up." Rick would get on the phone and talk about downsizing and freeing up equity. Every time they brought it up, I'd say the same thing. "We can talk about it, but you can't sell it without me. It's in my name." They would laugh like I was being cute. "You're not going to do anything with it," Rick would say. "You don't even live here." "It's still mine," I'd say. And he'd reply, "We'll see." I should have taken that seriously. Back in my bedroom, staring at that text with the sold sign, my hands were still shaking when I hung up on my mom and Rick. I sat there for a full minute just breathing through my mouth because my nose felt blocked like I was about to cry. Then I did the only thing my dad ever taught me that consistently works. I went to the facts. I pulled up the county property records online. My name was right there under owner, Lauren Kensington. I took screenshots. I emailed them to myself. I pulled up the agreement we'd signed. I found the email from the attorney from years ago. I started a folder on my desktop called House. Then I called the number that texted me. A woman answered, cheerful. "This is Jenna with the Kensington property buyers. Are you Lauren?" "Yes," I said, voice tight. "Why are you texting me about measurements?"
"Oh, great," she said.
"So the sellers gave us your number for access coordination. We're scheduled to close this Friday." My heart stuttered. "Who are the sellers?" I asked, even though I already knew. "Marianne and Rick Holt," she said, like it was nothing. I felt dizzy. "They're not the owners," I said slowly. "I am." There was a pause where I could hear her keyboard clicking. "Wait," she said. "We have a signed contract." "A contract signed by people who don't own the property," I said. My voice sounded weirdly calm now, like my brain had switched into emergency mode. "Do you have a title company?" "An agent." "Yes," she said cautiously, and then gave me the information. Within 20 minutes, I was on the phone with the title company. The woman there sounded tired and apologetic. "Miss Kensington," she said, "we're in the process of verifying all documents." The sellers provided a power of attorney. A power of attorney. My vision blurred. "A power of attorney for me?" I asked. "Yes," she said. "It appears notarized." I felt my stomach twist. "I never signed a power of attorney," I said. "I have never given them authority to sell my property." The title officer hesitated. "We'll need to pause the closing," she said, voice shifting into professional caution. If the power of attorney is invalid, this is serious.
Pause it, I said.
Immediately. Then I called my mom again. She didn't answer. I called Rick. Straight to voicemail. I texted both of them. Did you forge a POA? Do not close. I'm contacting an attorney. That was the moment they finally called back, because the moment consequences become real, people like Rick can't hide behind calm tone anymore. Rick's voice came through the phone, clipped and furious. What did you do? He snapped, like I'd messed up his plans. What did I do? I repeated. You tried to sell my house using a fake power of attorney. It wasn't fake, he said quickly. Too quickly. Your mother and I handled it. You were unreachable. You live far away. We needed to act. You never needed to act, I said, and my hands were shaking again. But this time it was rage. You needed my permission. You didn't have it, so you forged it. My mom's voice broke in, crying now, and it made my chest ache even while I was furious. Lauren, please, she said. Rick said it was okay. He said it was just paperwork. We need the money. The taxes. The money for what? I asked. What are you doing? Silence. Then Rick said, that's none of your business. I laughed once, sharp. It's my house, I said. It is literally my business. I hung up and called a lawyer, a real estate attorney with a blunt voice and no patience for drama. I emailed her the county records, the agreement, the screenshots, the text from the buyers. She called me back within an hour and said, if they forged a power of attorney, this is fraud. We can file an injunction to stop the sale and notify law enforcement. Hearing the word fraud attached to my family made me feel sick, but it also made me feel less crazy, less like I was overreacting. The next 2 days were a blur. The attorney sent formal notices to the title company and the buyer's agent. The closing was halted. The title company requested the notary's information. I asked for a copy of the power of attorney, and when it arrived in my inbox, my hands went cold. The signature was supposed to be mine. It wasn't. It was close enough to fool someone who hadn't seen my handwriting in years. But I knew my signature like I know my own face. The loops were wrong. The slant was wrong. It looked like someone had practiced it. The notary stamp was from a town I'd never been to. I forwarded it to my attorney. She responded with one sentence, "This is criminal." When my mom realized I wasn't going to quietly work it out, she showed up at my aunt's house sobbing, telling everyone I was trying to make her homeless. Candace-style relatives started texting me, saying I was heartless, that my mom raised me, that family comes first. None of them asked why my mom needed to secretly sell a house that wasn't hers. So I asked my mom directly through my attorney to provide a full accounting of expenses and why she needed the sale proceeds. That's when the truth leaked out in pieces. Rick had taken out loans. He'd put money into a business opportunity that went bad. They were behind on payments. They were desperate. And instead of asking me, instead of sitting down like adults and saying, "We're in trouble," Rick chose what he always chooses: control. He tried to take what wasn't his and bet that I'd be too polite, too far away, too guilty to stop him. I flew home the week after New Year's. I walked into my childhood house, and it didn't feel like home anymore. The furniture was half-packed like they'd already mentally moved out. There were sticky notes on cabinets. My mom looked small and exhausted. Rick wouldn't look at me. I stood in the living room where my dad used to sit and said, quietly, "You tried to steal from me." Mom started crying harder. You didn't think I'd fight." I finished for her. "Because I never have." Rick's jaw tightened. "We needed to survive," he muttered. "And I needed you not to commit fraud in my name," I said. "I didn't kick my mom out that day. I couldn't. I'm not that person. But I did change the locks. I did install new cameras. I did remove Rick from any access and told my mom, gently and firmly, that if she wanted to stay, she had to stop letting Rick handle paperwork on my property." My attorney filed a report regarding the forged document. The notary stamp is being investigated. I don't know what will happen next, legally. I just know I couldn't let it slide because if you let someone steal your reality once, they do it again. The weirdest part is that I don't feel triumphant. I feel like someone shook my life and all the hidden rot fell out. I'm grieving my dad again in this strange way because he was the one who tried to protect me from exactly this, and I still got hit anyway. But I also feel something I haven't felt in years. Certain. The house is mine. The truth is mine. And for the first time, my family doesn't get to rewrite it. Thanks for watching. If you've ever had family cross a line you never thought they'd cross, and you had to choose between peace and protecting yourself, share your story in the comments. I'd really like to hear it.